Alleluia. Om Mani Padme Om. Allah Satnam.
Welcome. You're watching Harmony and Diversity. And today the program is an interview with Anne Lastman, who's a post-abortion grief counsellor. Last week we were speaking with Anne in relation to her spiritual background and what caused her to become a grief counsellor. Thank you again, Anne, for coming.
Thank you for asking me.
We have a website, and that website's called Victims of Abortion. And you were the principal person behind that. Give us a bit of a story about Victims of Abortion.
And my son is the designer.
Your son is a designer. So
he's
it's
a
all
clever
family
little
business.
Vegemite. He's a clever little person. He's 6'4", and he designed the front cover of my book too.
Good.
But the website came about with, it's not up to date because Luke needs setting up his business at the moment, and I need him to help me with that. But it's to help. It's got on it my newsletters, Broken Branches.
Yes.
Which I have been writing for 16 years. I'm on to issue 93 at the moment.
Yes.
And a few other writings, and I'm still waiting to put on the Charles Francis Award information and some other later information. Victims of Abortion came out of the work that I do post-abortion, but it's a broader thing. Because victims, abortion hasn't just got two victims. I know that we're pushing two victims to an abortion, the woman and the child, and that's true. In the immediate, there is.
Yeah.
But there are more. There's a huge number of victims of abortion to one abortion. There's a father.
Yes.
There's grandparents on both sides.
Yes.
There's aunties and uncles. There's cousins. There's, in fact, I've got a young lady that I deal with now every week who grieves every time there's a family gathering because of her little nephews and nieces. And her three should have been there also, but they're not there. There's cousins. There's friends at work who knew. The victims to one abortion are not just two, the baby and the mother. They're the first two.
Yes.
But then surrounding, what about Dad, the father? The father is a very important part of an abortion. Even though he takes his wife, which is very disastrous for marriage, his girlfriend, which is disastrous for a good relationship, or fiance to abort their baby, it's very disastrous to that relationship. He takes it to the abortion clinic, not realizing what he's doing, that he himself is so important to the life of that in utero child. He doesn't know, or maybe he doesn't want to know, that it is because of him that the baby actually lives within the womb. Because I've got a study that I've read, but it's been out 5 or 6 years, from Professor Frederick Zugibe, which says that it is written within the male genetic material that instructions are to build the amniotic sac for the newly formed child, so that it's not expelled by the mother's body as a foreign object. Now look how important that is. A man protects and builds a house for his baby right from the beginning.
Yes.
So when I hear it's her body, I'll support her, whatever she wants to do. It's her, well, yes, darling, it is her body. But you've created this baby, and you've built a house big enough for her to protect the baby inside of her. Without you and your instructions in your genetic material, the baby would have been expelled, because the mother's body would have seen it, as with all other foreign objects. We know that all the white cells get into action and get rid of foreign bodies. So it is something within the father that sets up the protection for this baby. So how can you say, I'll go along with whatever her decision is, as if it doesn't matter to him? It matters a lot. And this is where I think, in the Garden of Eden, it says that Adam was absent.
Yes.
Well, what do you think he's doing now? He's absent again. He's nowhere to be seen where it comes to abortions.
Yes.
He takes her there, helps to pay for it at times, at other times he doesn't. Medicare does that. And then he goes away.
Yes. There's an implied, we were talking about grieving earlier, even though the male may not be conscious of that information, and it would be very good if they were, maybe there's a subliminal grieving in a male, because his intrinsic entity knows what you've just described.
Of course he knows. And if he doesn't know it at that moment, because he's perhaps a young person, hasn't thought about it, and it's too much to think about.
Yes.
At a later point, when he has a child, when he sees the birth of a child, his own child maybe, with a future child,
Yes.
then the memory comes back. This is the awful part about abortion grief.
Yes.
That it doesn't have to start immediately, because immediately that means all the problems are gone. I don't have to stay with her anymore.
Worry.
I don't have to worry about it anymore. But at a later point, perhaps he can't have another child,
No.
and remembers the one that he aborted.
To be aborted. Time is upon us. We'll return to that. We'll be back in a moment.
Mani Allah, Alleluia, Mani Allah.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony in Diversity, and I'm speaking with Anne Lastman, who is a post-abortion grief counsellor. And you covered a very important point, which was the breadth of the impact of an abortion. Now that's the interfamilial element. To what extent do you think that extends on into society at large, the grief I'm talking about, and also the negative influence? Because somewhere there's an engine which is driving this pro-life legislation throughout the world. What do you think that engine might look like? Does it have a component of people do it, so therefore it's okay, or what would you say?
That is probably the most common thing. It's become legal. So, it's a little bit like the lights, the traffic lights. We go with green and stop with red, and maybe possibly with amber. We don't know which way we'll go with that. But with green we go because everyone goes with green. This is what the problem is. We have normalized abortion. Abortion has become, I don't even believe that when we say the word abortion, we even know what it means anymore.
No.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely.
It's become so common.
Yes.
It's just a word.
Yes.
How many people, I wonder, out there, even looking at me speaking, and say the word and see what it actually means. I have been following that abortionist in America and his doings, Kermit Gosnell. I can say the name because it's publicised, okay?
Yes.
It's public knowledge. Why is there no horror with the normal media? Why was it only through LifeSite News and Life News and other pro-life news that we hear of him snipping spines of children, of cutting their limbs, of killing them while they're still crying? Why don't we hear about it? The media, it's to the normal media, it's it's a woman's choice. It's lawful to 40 weeks. If it wasn't legal and lawful and okay for women, well, it wouldn't be. I found it most interesting, Norm, that we had that horrible, tragic incidents of the Boston issues.
Yes.
And all the American media and the president and everybody turned up. Australia, all over around the world. And yet this guy's been killing both women, because he's also charged with murder of a woman, and babies, viable, living, that babies that were born alive after an abortion procedure. And he snipped their spinal cords, cut off limbs. Why isn't the normal media shocked?
Yes.
And that's because abortion has become normal. Killing babies has become normal.
I think that there's a parallel here with the recent furor about cattle in Indonesia, and recently I think it's in Pakistan. The organisation interested in that has vision, and it's the vision which then motivates people when they see an animal being badly treated. If they had vision of any abortion, but vision of that particular fellow's work, you might find that there would be a furor about it, because politicians and lawmakers would have to respond. So do you think it's that distancing? It's because it's legal, then there's a distancing from it. There's nobody who goes in undercover into an abortion clinic and actually takes photographs.
They have actually done YouTubes of some going in undercover shown what his actual facility, called the House of Horror, looks like, and what it looked like.
Right.
So, but still the
Still
media,
no response.
YouTube, this is YouTube, still the media, no response.
Not picked it up.
No, they haven't. And that, it's my opinion, a very humble opinion, is because of the feminist movement behind, don't you laugh at me, behind this whole projection that is this, it is a battle between the feminist and the feminine.
Yes, exactly.
Can you see the difference?
Absolutely.
One is the feminist is fighting and is saying, I will not serve, non servum est. The feminine is suffering.
Yes.
This is the battle that's being waged at the moment. And until there is a resolution and the feminine increases in power, I'm sorry, I don't see a change.
No, it comes down to an issue of political correctness, because there's not many media entities who would be prepared to take the feminist movement on. No. So it's really a matter of lack of what's cowardice, really. But it is that issue of political correctness which stands in the way.
And in the meantime, we have babies, including here in Victoria, who are born alive after abortion procedures and not helped because the parents have asked for a dead baby. The 19-week a week ago, that Dr. Hobart was involved with, the gender selection issue.
Oh, yes.
About
yes.
2 weeks ago.
That's right.
19 weeks, the abortion happened.
Well, because gender selection opens up another story altogether.
Why are we surprised with that?
Well, exactly. And why are we surprised at the fact that the time has passed as well? So we'll take a break. We'll be back in a moment.
Mani Allah. Alleluia. Mani Allah.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and I'm speaking with Anne Lastman, who's a post-abortion grief counsellor. And there's an article called a New Abortion Mental Health Study, and from September 2011 there's this article, and if you bear with me, I'll just go through what it indicates to be some of the consequences of abortion. It's a fairly detailed study by Dr. Coleman, with whom I'm very sure you're very familiar. But just to refresh the figures for you, 81% increase in mental health problems for women post-abortion. 10% of all women's mental health problems are directly linked to that. 10% of all mental health problems. And her research then goes on to indicate there's a 34% increased risk of anxiety disorders, 37% greater risk of depression, 1.1 times greater risk of alcohol abuse, and 2.2 times greater risk of marijuana use and abuse. Now there's some pretty extraordinary figures, and then there's one I'm missing, is 1.5 times greater risk of attempting to commit suicide.
Suicide, yes.
Now you've dealt with a large number of women.
Yes.
How do those things fit in with your experience?
All of them. I've encountered every
Right.
one of them. And in fact, I think the most gruesome encounter I've had, and that is with self-mutilation, which
really?
she didn't mention. One of my clients actually brought in a blade and cut herself, her tummy,
In your presence?
in my presence.
Good heavens.
She hated her tummy so much, but she had 4 abortions, and she sat there, and I was not expecting anything like that, but I thank God for training, because I was able to say, okay, there's some tissues there, get control over the situation. There's some tissues there, put it over there and make sure you don't mess with my carpet, because I've got to get it cleaned if you do.
Yes, diversion.
And
Yes.
what that did was take away some of the stress that she was feeling at the time.
It's incredible.
And I said, okay, now do up the zipper, we'll put some tissues, and I'll take you to get it seen to. Now, this is this inner stress, the inner boiling that goes on inside. For those who say that there is no abortion after effects, I know the American Psychological Association says really there is not much, no problem with abortion, that there is no problems. Well, I'm sorry, I argue with them completely.
Yes.
There is enormous trauma with abortion.
Yes. I'm just rustling papers here,
That's okay.
which is bad for
You can rustle.
for the sound. But I just felt that I needed to pull out Better Health, which is a government website, which says that abortion doesn't cause ongoing emotional distress for most women.
Yeah.
Isn't that unfortunate if you're not one of the most?
Now, 10%. Let's be as conservative as those figures of Dr. Coleman say. That 10% overall of all mental health problems of women are related to abortion. Okay?
Huge.
10% every year, that means 10,000 a year in Australia. Every year.
Yes.
Okay? Over 10 years, that's 1 million. No, 100,000.
100,000, yes.
Okay. Now, globally, we have over 50 million abortion a year that we know of. Now, what does that say, 10% of that say?
Good heavens. It's a lot of people.
Okay, so the government says only some. And who are the some?
That's right.
Who do they declare are the some who would be?
And who are they not identifying? Because not everybody's going to express it. No. They'll carry it, but they'll not express it.
Most psychologists, psychiatrists, even counsellors aren't interested in this. They won't look. They prefer to look at what mother did when she was a 4-year-old child and put her in a bedroom as a punishment, rather than look at what could be a cause like an abortion at 17 years of age, and was too afraid to tell mum that she had an abortion. Do you know, I had a client who was 85 years old.
Good heavens.
Okay. She grieved from 17 to 85.
My goodness. That's a huge amount of emotional energy.
Yeah. She grieved, how many is that? 67 years of grieving, and carried that in her heart. She named her child. She knew it was her girl. And she was afraid to die because she would be hated by her daughter.
Good heavens. That's terrible. The substance abuse, what
Kind of.
is the main one?
Mostly I've encountered drink.
Right.
Drinking. Marijuana occasionally, that's more with the younger ones.
Yes, yes.
The older ones are medications, prescription drugs, and drink.
Yeah.
But the younger ones is more marijuana.
Marijuana, yes, because that's the drug
easy.
of the time in any event.
And ice. I'm getting some.
Well, that's a serious issue. Ice is a serious issue. And time is a serious issue.
Again.
Now, what we've got is I believe we could speak on, and I'd very much like to do that. So will you be able to come in for another program?
Okay.
I appreciate that, Anne.
Welcome.
You've been watching Harmony in Diversity, and I've been speaking with Anne Lastman, a post-abortion grief counsellor. We'll see you next week.
Baha'u'llah, Shanti Om, Allahu